and the 20% over and above what you get giving their money back, you split up in so pro rata form. You also get paid pro rata on how much money you bring into the fund. So in the six and a half year, you better have invested all the fucking money because you went out in 7. And the best time to get people money from private equity or get them to make a decision is when they're coming up to that 7th year mark. And sometimes it's 6.5, sometimes it's 8.5, but it's roughly 7. So they had made an investment in this company, let's say in the first, second year, and didn't work out. Remember, the private equity model, a third go bankrupt, roughly a third break even, and a third make money. And within the third that make money, they're looking for a Facebook or something like that. And there's only a very small number of that fall into that: Facebook, Google, etc., Uber, whatever. The myth is that motivated sellers aren't private equity. That's crap. I know that for 50 years. Me trying to tell you that, meatheads, you don't believe it because you're so inundated. You put private equity and hedge fund guys up there on some pedestal. They're fucking meatheads just like you.
So we can do them a favor too by getting the business.
Yeah, well, they won't call it a favor, but anyway, they're saying that you're a bottom feeder cocksucker and you're going to take an advantage. Yeah, anyway. But the other thing is that one of the investors had been a bank from an SBA. And normally, there's early investors, well, in startups, there can be seed investors where they put up money on concepts. Then there's early investors, and there's normally first, second, third, fourth round. The third round guys are normally taking out the seed and the first and second round. Fourth round guys are taking out the second and third round. That's how it works. You know, this deal, he turned around, there were unhappy campers. They wanted out. That's why when you see private equity guy left ABC Private Equity to join XYZ Private Equity, I mean, it's because he hadn't made any money, or they can see the fund, the 7-year fund isn't going to make any money. So they sometimes get signing bonuses to go to another private equity, signing bonuses. Private equity or hedge funds the last 10 years have underperformed the market. Private equity, only a small fraction of the private equity funds or venture capital funds have outperformed the market. Most of them don't outperform the market. The thing that he ran was had 3 private equity and had a SBA bank loan that had underperformed. And when he was sitting in my office, I mean, it took me about 100 millionth of a second. You're gonna this, and his eyes lit up. Not dissimilar to Deb, the guy that you saw early on, who had been 27 years doing it for somebody else, a billionaire. I told him how to do it. His is much more complicated than what you're gonna do because he's dealing with professionals, people that ostensibly are smarter than you. They're not really, and so he navigated and he hired an investment bank, et cetera, et cetera. And this was just prior to the close. It's now closed. And then Sally and I met him for a drink a couple months ago in New York. I told you, like, the Back to the Future, you know, that skateboard you slide around on. He wasn't walking on the ground when he walked into the fucking bar. I mean, I looked down, it looked like he floated in. And he was happy as shit. Well, needless to say, he's happy as shit. And very thankful, and I'm appreciative. And he subsequently, I believe he closed another deal. He closed this deal, and he formed a new board. Of the old board, he kept a couple for the new board, for NewCo, from the old board. There has to be conflict. And now, because of corporate governance, they're worried about, I made a decision now. Am I making the decision for the right reasons? One of the asshole shareholders is going to sue me. So they were very careful. It took longer than it should because of the corporate governance issues. Everybody had a fucking lawyer or a group of lawyers, and but he got it done. And he, unlike most, shared a third of the booty or the riches with his team. I haven't seen that happen too often in 50 years. But he is a guy that, you know, came with 8 cents in his pocket, you know, same old shit, you know. And so he felt grateful to his team. And so he gave a third of the riches to the team, which in this particular case was a little over $10 million, which ain't chump change. To his other senior executives who were part of the sales, part of this, part of that, he shared it. But he took the lion's share, 2/3. And like I said, he turned $20,000 because that's how he couched, how much am I going to get my investment back? And I don't do it that way. He got 1,000 times his investment back. He got 20 million or 30 million on 20,000, whatever that is. And now he's off and running. During this process, he moved from the 18th floor to the 58th floor. He went from a high-priced car to a higher-priced car. He changed his lifestyle. This is going to happen, so get used to the trappings, and he'll sell out to a strategic or another private equity because now he's turned this around. He's recapitalized it. So, I mean, and now he has a track record. He'll be CEO. I'm almost positive he'll do his next deal as CEO, but he might not. So what's some of the takeaways? Yeah.
He's constantly programming his mind and keeping it in QLA.
Deb and all these guys say that Deb used the word immersion, remember? And one of you asked me what it meant. That's what it means. It doesn't make me feel good that people are running around jogging tracks with me in their ear. I mean, believe me, that doesn't do anything for me. But, and they're constantly, when they're in the automobiles, you heard Dr. Joe radio. He listens to me going to the surgery, coming back from the surgery, when he's in the gym. But virtually all of them do the same thing. Some do it more, some do it less. You should say his affirmations more. Napoleon Hill, and I'm not saying Napoleon Hill is the gold standard, but Napoleon Hill said that you should say your affirmations 10 times a day. I never said it twice a day, once in the morning when I get up. I don't do that anymore. I only do it at night before I go to sleep, and then I say my prayers. I can fall asleep saying my prayers. For a lot of years in the morning when I woke up, and to this day I'm sitting there and Sally's falling asleep, and I'm saying my affirmations before I go to sleep.
You mentioned about habits, and you also said that.
Well, his good habits was he worked 60, 70 hours a week anyway. His good habits was physical exercise. He went to the gym almost every day. Whether salsa is a good habit or a bad habit, I don't know. But anyway, he knew his business well enough to get involved and take over direct sales. And most CEOs can't do that. But because he came up the ladder, he came up through marketing and sales, it was a no-brainer for him. He understands the sales funnel. That was a habit I didn't teach him because he came up through marketing and sales. If you've been in any kind of sales and you've been successful, you understand the sales funnel. And we have more than one funnel. And then the additional habits were affirmations, goals, and the goals that he had set down on the paper, just like you sent to me, were not meager. From where he comes from, they're not meager, but meager in the sense of creating generational wealth. So he created $30 million isn't generational wealth to me. Just about 99% of everybody else that walks on the planet, $30 million is generational wealth. And he did it in less than a year. Generational wealth to me is a couple $100 million. And so he was able to do that. Of course, now he's a believer. He's a zealot, nothing like a convert. A convert Catholic, convert to being sober. They're zealots. He is certainly that. Sally will attest to. He says, God, he looks so happy.
Money does buy happiness.
Amen, dear. Amen. But some of the guys that have businesses that are worth a shit, either if they want to walk away, they allow the employees to buy him, or if they want to keep it and build upon that company, then their first acquisition is themselves. And I won't say they're slam dunk to finance, but they're almost slam dunk. They're rubber stamp to finance, because you don't have to explain about anything. You build the business. It's going to be your first acquisition. Sometimes you make it in conjunction with another acquisition you bolt on. That's assuming free cash flow covers debt service. Most of the businesses that come here, you ought to turn the key, meaning just shut them down, walk away. Don't go through any sales process. Just fucking walk away and get away. Run like a thief in the night. Because as I said, I believe on the first afternoon, you've really just bought yourself a job. You've bought yourself a salary, and in most cases, not even a high-paying salary. But for those that actually have something worth salvaging, saving, etc., then I strongly recommend your first acquisition be you. And in his particular case, it was him. And the shareholders were big-time funds, big-time PE guys. You'd recognize the names, because remember, 2/3 of the investments they make, or 1/3 of the investments they make, go bankrupt, and 1/3 of the investments they make break even, but they still may be cash flowing. And so, assuming that you can build upon that, they're good candidates. And that's why I say that pension funds, insurance companies are candidates, not for your first deal. First deal is better mom and pop, so you can learn some skills. Buying assets from an insurance company or a pension fund is difficult. This probably took twice as long that it should have, because it was dealing with professional investors that were worried about, as he alluded to, corporate governance issues. They had to be very careful that they're not going to get sued. So, and when everybody has a lawyer, there's 5 lawyers, there's 7 opinions, because 2 lawyers and law firms got 2 opinions. But he got it done. His first deal, he had 1%. It was nothing. Preferred shares, so what? But he had an integral knowledge of the business, because he was immoral or illegal. It happens. You read about the LBOs all the time. You don't pay attention to them when you hear them announced, but they happen. I know you hear them on the news. You don't pay attention, but it's somebody or a group within the company buying themselves. That's what that is. And all debt, no equity. Although during the interviewing process and during the investment bank, and all the investment banks that were interviewed, I think there was 10 or 12, wanted to give their M&A advice, their advisory service, and slam them with some equity in there, which higher fees, but he was able to get it done. I looked at it and I said, even if you fuck this up, you don't need any equity. And if anybody shows you a fucking spreadsheet that shows equity, eliminate them. You're not hiring them, because they're all brain dead. Something's not right. Other than they want to generate fees. Most of them. When I used to be in that business, I understand you want to generate fees. Advisory fees and acquisition fees and blah, blah, blah fees. But it was easy peasy, as my daughter would say, because, the cash flow was strong. And the cash flow was strong based on him turning around the business. That was literally a no-brainer. Almost every seminar has got one guy or one gal in there that should do like this. Deb was a few seminars ago. We had some Cubans here a couple seminars ago. Cuban gangsters. It was a no-brainer for them to buy their own business. It just is. Now, if you're in industry A as a candidate to buy, but you're going to go into industry B, then it's not, unless you're going to build a conglomerate. And I'm not a big proponent of building conglomerates because it sounds good on paper, but there's a lot of issues with conglomerates. But if you're in industry A and you're going to go into industry B and you sell your business to your employees, and you do an employee scheme where you sell the business to the employees, and then you walk away. And that's what Anelli alluded to a couple days ago. That's done all the time. I mean, it's easy to finance. I mean, again, it's an easy peasy deal because you don't have to fight over valuation. The employees are getting part of a company that they'd never have ownership in anything in their lives. It's not that you're taking advantage of them. You're giving them, like they used to say, a piece of the rock, bragging rights down at the local bar or pub they go to. And I saw a lot of coal mines back in the day when I was in the coal mining business that the employees bought. The mine that you're in, what are it, 500 miners?
Yeah.
Okay, and assuming it's profitable and assuming all these other things, the miners would love to own the fucking mine. Nowhere else other than the house they own and the car that they may or may not own are they ever going to something to plan for the future for. And it's not dissimilar with virtually all the other businesses. Now, the company that 4 years old or 4 months of that's not the case. But these employee deals are businesses that have been around 10, 20, 30 years. Okay, YouTube.